It is a time like no other in planet Earth. The inhabitants of this planet are facing more natural hazards than in any other time in history. You are right to say Mother Nature is on rampage. Natural tragedies are regularly featured in local and international news. Mother Nature is becoming people enemy number one.
The signs are clear. Water is scarce and getting scarcer. Recent droughts have been unusually severe. The floods that we endure are ever more serious.
Words like global warming and climate change are no longer a preserve for scientists. Hurricanes, El Ninos, La Ninas, floods, droughts, and heat waves are topics consistently discussed by ordinary people. All over the globe, climate patterns are no longer predictable. Rains are extreme and droughts severe. With these conditions becoming common, displacements and conflicts are the end result.
The UN Security Council just recently declared climate change as a threat to international peace and security.
The financial implication is enormous. Homes, roads, bridges, and dams are being torn apart. The cost incurred to repair or rebuild the essential infrastructure runs into billions of dollars.
Homes have been washed away, churches have been washed away, 2 schools have literally been wiped completely, and families have really nowhere to start. Some of the areas down here, to go back to agriculture will be a tall order because an entire section has been washed off the soil. So even the livelihood, the agriculture that would otherwise be there will not be there.
Severe weather conditions result into lost productivity as daily life is disrupted. Activities in sectors such as agriculture, transport, trade and education, among others, are brought to a standstill. In the epicenter of this mess are people living in arid and semi-arid ecosystems. Pastoral communities, who are majority in drylands, have low adaptive capacity, thus remaining more vulnerable. This is despite the fact that trade between pastoral communities in Africa generates an estimated $1 billion annually.
Already we know that climate change is affecting various communities in different ways. It's affecting various ecosystems. But the arid and semi-arid areas are so special because of the inherent variability. They are therefore more vulnerable than other ecosystems.
In Africa, many people's livelihood highly depends on natural resources, making the continent vulnerable.
We must accept today that rain-fed agriculture will not provide sufficient food for our country.
And we're farming here in very arid conditions. Like we get about, sometimes we only get 300 millimeters of rainfall in a year. We farm under very difficult conditions.
Sisi watu wa ufugaji, kitu tunategemea zaidi mvua nyasi na maji. Kama inakusha mali atakusha.
One of the most constraint to livestock, extensive livestock production in the drylands would be scarcity of pasture and water.
Our environment remains the bedrock of our development. For every sector of our economy depends upon it, and it remains vital in its own right.
In Kenya, pastoralists occupy more than 70% of the landmass. These citizens, whose survival depend on livestock and livestock products, account for 60% of the population.
The main source of livelihood in the drylands is livestock production, extensive livestock production, which some people also refer to as pastoralism.
Kwa sisi wafugaji kawaida si atulimi shamba, sisi tunategemea mfugo. Sasa mfugo ukipata shida, sisi tunapata shida.
With all this happening, something must be done.
jumla si ilaalanii fin nama irree tochitini wanni akka oolallee beta fin irree nam gabbuufti.
Researchers through the Adaptation to Scale in Semi-Arid Regions project, also referred to as ASAR project, have been working with the Borana community in Isiolo County. This is to understand the challenges they are facing and to help them adapt.
In ASAR project, we are mainly looking at how the pastoral communities affected by climate change and how they are responding to these changes that not only include climate variability and change, but also other socioeconomic and environmental changes.
Researchers on this project are using a different approach in their bid to make their work useful at the grassroots level.
As a way of informing interventions that are aimed at having sustainable climate change adaptation. To be able to effectively do this, ASAR project has got a very special approach in which we are considering what we call in the project as research into use. And this basically is aimed at descending from the high grounds of basically just generating information to the low, normally very tricky low grounds of implementing research findings. And we do this by continuously engaging the community at every stage of the research process.
Community members and the researchers have identified 3 ways of adopting, which include zoning, the grazing land, locally known as DETHA system, changing of the herd composition, and pasture production.
Among the list of the very many options that they have for addressing this problem, they again prioritized 2 that they thought were very, very key, the topmost. And this was mainly the approach of partitioning the grazing land or zoning the grazing land into different areas that could be used or can be used at different times of the year.
The rain started beating the pastoral communities immediately Kenya gained its independence.
Sasa wakati Kenya yetu walipata uhuru 1963, wanasema Kenya ni Kenya. Wakati wanasema Kenya ni Kenya, kila mali kutoka county ngina wakati wa district from Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, hii watu wanakuja pande sasa. Sasa wanamaliza majani. Na tulipata shida kubwa sana kwa sababu ng'ombe nakufa sana kwa sababu hauna majani.
Interacting with elders from the Borana community makes one thing clear. Herders are not primitive and inefficient users of natural resources. In Isiolo County, this zoning concept is used to reduce the impact of droughts.
The big thing here is DETHA. DETHA is a traditional institution which guides or is mandated by the local Boran pastoralists for the purpose of natural resource management. This traditional institution normally arranges or develops a grazing pattern which guides communities' access to pasture and water.
This DETHA system is not new. It has been there for decades, but at some point the community stopped practicing it.
Tulikuwa mababu zetu kutoka zamani wako na DETHA. DETHA ni kitu muhimu kwa jamii ya Borana.
But this is not only unique to the Borana community. All other pastoral communities have a similar kind of system. But currently, as we know, there have been so many changes that have occurred in the drylands that render most of these traditional systems either ineffective or some of them have been forgotten altogether.
The land is divided into 3 sections and elders decide where the cattle should be, depending with the weather.
The traditional system of DETHA has clearly defined land and planned it according to 3 different grazing zones units, and there is one specific we call wet season, which they call wet season grazing area. That is an area which is largely vast. It has very short-lived and very nutritious pasture, and pastoralists normally go in time when there is subsurface water. And then there is a specific dry season grazing area where the pastoralists, through their traditional system, move to when the pasture in the wet season grazing areas get now drier, and also the subsurface waters have all dried up. They move to ponds, they move to shallow wells, where areas they can use those shallow wells and ponds to access pasture within the dry season grazing area. There is a specific area they have preserved for the time of drought, and they call it the drought reserves. And within their traditional planning system, it's very clear, it's areas which have long-standing pastures, areas with permanent water sources like boreholes, like even springs, areas which they access when they are really in need of pasture, and they are normally reserved for time of drought.
There are many advantages of zoning besides having enough pasture. There is evidence that reviving the zoning system is a good idea. Those using this strategy have enough pasture, which at times they share with their neighbors.
Wakati tuliawacha dedha, alafu tulikuwa tumekuwa maskini, ng'ombe na kufa, sisi tunakuwa maskini zaidi.
Kawaida mfugo kusikwa mvua na siku ya kiangazi haifai kukaa mahali moja. Peleka ile mahali ambayo inahitajika. Utapata maziwa kwa wingi, ng'ombe yako pia inapata afya kwa wingi na inazaa kwa haraka. Na ukipeleka kwa soko pia unapata soko yake.
When the community, the Borana community in Isiolo decided to revitalize this kind of system, they have reported positive results, and the communities around them have also reported the same. They would indicate that since they revived the system, they've been able to have pasture for the better part of the year. And they've seen most of their neighbors coming in to share with them the pastures that they have reserved. And this is an indication that what they are doing is having positive results. For example, I talked to the Samburu community that's neighboring the Borana, and they said they went back to Kenya for the first time since 1938, because this was the only place that they would find grass during the drought.
Women are beneficiaries and have a role to play. They are part of the decision making, and they are also the implementers.
Katika hii dedha, majukumu ya kina mama huwa inakuanga mingi sana zaidi wa baba. Hii wazee wa dedha wakikaa kwa kivuli wakizungumza maneno ya yani ng'ombe ama mifugo mali iko, huwa wamama hawasemangi na mdomo, tunakimbilia.
Kwa hivyo wewe kutoka tulianza tuko sawa, kwa sababu ng'ombe imenona, maziwa iko. Haya kina mama kama anaenda kukamua aende distance mrefu, aende distance mrefu anakamulia karibu na wanarudi kwa watoto yao.
Yaani upande wa dedha huwa pia tunahusika kwa dedha. Ni sisi ndio tunatoa amri kwa baba, tunasema uwe mfugo hii ihame iende mahali ambaye inahitajika kwa sasa.
This is an area where conflict over pasture is a normal thing. The Council of Elders has other roles to play.
Other responsibilities as in on issues about any inter-communal conflict, and even inter-family conflict within the communities, the issues about festivals within the communities, they are the ones who also guide on that. They lead in processes of prayers within the communities, and largely on the aspect of ensuring that culture of the community is also sustained and protected.
Tumejadiliana, tumejitengeneza sharia yetu kulinda ardhi yetu, ile mali yetu. Mtu kutoka nje ikiingia mpaka big report.
The climate is changing, and so is the landscape. Pastoralists are also expected to move with speed.
The second most preferred scenario or option for addressing the problem was changing of the herd composition, because what we have realized is that the pastoral landscape is mainly shifting from grassland to a sort of woody vegetation dominated kind of grazing lands. The browsers, and these are animals who feed on the trees and shrubs, would be more favored by that kind of environment as compared to the grazers who rely mainly on the grass. So the shift towards keeping more of the browsers, and this I mean goats and camel, is something that they also favored.
Hii ngamia pia mzuri kwa sababu wakati ukame anachukua muda mrefu na akosi maziwa, sababu inakulanga juu ya miti, na sisi mbuzi na ng'ombe, mbuzi na kondoo iko chini, ngamia na mbuzi nyeupe wanakula juu ya miti. Tena wanakulanga kama koza hata miti juu, wanakulanga maganda ile ya miti.
A camel, due to climate change, is being adopted by many who have not been keeping the camels. In particular, like Isiolo, we have the larger Boran communities, which are cattle ranching communities, cattle keeping communities, who are now, due to climate change, which has affected them, losing a lot of, in each drought, losing a lot of cattle, are now coming to be introduced to camel skipping because it will withstand those drought.
Wingi sisi sasa kuanzia last year, ukame ya juzi, watu wamenunua ngamia mingi sana kwa sababu 30, 40, 50, 10, 5.
The difficult times have created a conducive environment for innovators. There is an emergence of entrepreneurs commanding emerging markets, creating jobs and business opportunities.
Industries are coming up very fast. Like Isiolo now, we have 2 cooperatives which are operating on a daily basis on milk.
Alulei Cooperative was registered in the year 2010 and all its members are women. The members produce, buy and distribute camel milk to consumers in various towns.
Hii kina mama maziwa yao ya gamu yao binafsi iko, lakini wengi maziwa tunachukua kwa customer nje. Kila mwanamke ya members anatafuta maziwa bila ya kubata.
This has opened an avenue for women in this region to involve themselves in income-generating activities.
One of the industries that even you cannot find women is the industry of the livestock. Very few. The milk industry and the meat industry is the women who are controlling the larger part of the value chain. And why? Is because one thing, it can be positive or it can be negative, because it's too demanding. It's an industry which needs a lot of time consumption. And men want a quick things. They want something which they can come, exchange there and move away.
Hii kina mama iko na watoto wanasomesha. Unajua kina mama kama watoto wanasomesha, anafukisha mtoto yake na kosa fee, tunasaidiana wanalipianga. Kama society iko na mtaka kuchukua loan, tunabatia arudishe ajisaidie nayo.
Any business being done by the government fails. So we want an innovators, we want our youth, we want our women to come into this industry. They are moving away from the houses, now doing business. If you go back to the payment even of the herders themselves, most of those guys are under the payroll of the women. If you go back at the health, they are the people who are paying for more.
Non-governmental organizations have been training the members of the cooperative to enable them expand. Alulei Cooperative is planning to change its product mix to expand its market.
Ndio tunakuwa baada hiyo tunabata NGOs, unatukujia, unatubeleka seminar, msomo, mambo ya hygiene, mambo ya kubeshara vile inafanywa, vile inapelekwa pesa bank. Nimepeleka sisi training ya kutengeleza maziwa ya gamia, yogurt, cheese, hata chocolate tunatengeleza. Bora sahi sijaweka soko, ajili sijaweka soko, sijabata laces ya kupeleka soko.
The suppliers are increasing, but this cooperative is yet to get new markets. At times, the facility is unable to buy all the milk, leaving the herders with nowhere to take their surplus.
Maziwa yanaanza kuongezeka mpaka unafika saa ya mvua 6,000 unaingia kwa siku. Sichukui maziwa nje, maziwa hii area ya hii Isiolo tu. Kama saa hii maziwa ni mingi, na hakuna soko ya kupeleka Isli peke yake. Soko yetu ni Isli peke yake. Sasa kama tuko na soko ingine tukibata, tuko na maziwa kutosha ya kupeleka soko ingine. Kama hakuna soko napeleka leo 6,000 liters ikiingia, saa ingine naweza tuma 4,000, 2,000 na baki.
The sector is facing some challenges, but there are reasons to remain hopeful. There are efforts being made to market camel and camel-related products. Consumers have many reasons to buy these goods.
The live animal trade, which is like camel trade, which is happening between Ethiopia and Kenya, is attracting a lot of resources to the country's economy. Because like 3 years ago, we found that a price of camel has pushed from 40,000 Kenya shillings to 120,000 per camel, which we saw that it is thrice the price, which has not even ever risen within the market chain.
Maziwa gamia na tena saa hii imesikizana watu, umejua ni dawa. Mtu ya blood pressure, mtu ya sukari, mtu ya typhoid na uwa malaria, damu na njaa, ni dawa yake. Na daktari hata saa hii iko watoto wengi naandikwa. Watu wengine natoka Dika, Karantina, Nyeri, Meru. Iko watu nakuja nasema mtoto yangu daktari ndio ameandikia maziwa, anataka anakuja kununua hapa.
Those involved in camel keeping claim there is a big potential to create jobs and wealth. On the other hand, there is no proper information showing the economic impact related to this animal.
Economic activity or economic value of the camel has not been captured well in the country's economy. One is due to lack of information, and the second also is lack of skills, which are there in the ASALs. But a recent study which has been done by SNV looking at only camel milk marketing, it has shown that it has generated 80 billion Kenya shillings above the cotton industry, looking at the pyrethrum industry, and also looking at the horticulture industry, which is really showing that camel milk only alone, if it can contribute 8 billion Kenya shillings. And this is value chain which has been done only in Isiolo. We have not included the value chain of Marsabit, Wajir, Garissa, which the milk is coming towards Nairobi.
Nomadic pastoralism, which accounts for 12% of Kenya's GDP, is under threat. Herders are considering venturing into grass growing to deal with pasture scarcity. This has also created an avenue for others to grow it for sale.
We've tried many different crops, and we've found the most reliable is to grow Rhodes grass, and by doing that we can also help our neighbours by supplying them with hay when they can't get any food for their gombis somewhere else. And so we found that very useful, and in doing that we've perfected the technique of planting this grass.
There are several challenges hay producers are facing, but there is one which is worth noting.
The challenge is getting the seed. That is the challenge, is to find the seed, because even Kenya Seed right now have no grass seed in stock, nothing.
Pastoralists who hold livestock for prestige or as a tradition are being urged to go commercial.
One thing that the development agencies and the governments are encouraging is that the communities should also embrace the market economy.
We need, as I have said many times before, to commercialize our agriculture and to raise standards so that we can compete not just in our region, but with anyone, anywhere in the world.
In the pastoralism, we have been used to keeping the animal for prestige. I have 100 camels, then I can marry 1, 2, 3, 4 wives. I have 100 cattle, then I can be respected elder within the community. I have this number of animals, then I can be sit in a big seat of a king under a tree to make a decision for. But we are moving from that towards making more money into the pocket, because more of pastoralism now are changing towards centralization, and more of them, the needs are increasing. Because one, you are taking children to school, and that's a cost which is coming to the family.
On the other hand, commercialization that is being supported might bring its fair share of problems.
When communities take different pathways, livelihood pathways, there are those who would favor very much the aspect of trying to embrace the market economy, being able to engage in trade or engage in livestock production for the purpose of participating in the livestock market or trade. Then the interests also change in terms of also sharing of resources. Whereas other community members may still want to use traditional system or ways of managing natural resources. The ones which are commercial oriented would also have different interests in this case. And definitely when it comes to that, then there's a conflict of interest.
Pastoralism is under threat and millions of people might lose their source of livelihood. Every day, new threats are rising.
Interaction between animals from the different borders, because we are now interacting with Ethiopia, we are interacting with Somalia from different borders. So we are seeing that there is a lot of unknown diseases which are coming into the market for the camels.
What the communities in the drylands need most is that capacity to be able to cope with the extreme droughts when they occur.
Necessary coping strategies must be implemented for sustainable progress. Deforestation and increased carbon emissions must be combated.
Due to climate change, as an association, we are moving towards ensuring that this issue of the carbon monoxide coming from the vehicles, we can use more of camels to use for transport, for ecotourism. We reduce the issue of the vehicles in our national reserves, in our places of work, where we are going, so that we are going to use this in order to save our environment.
All of us must begin to appreciate that there is something we can do to be able to have an environment and to manage our environment in a way that avoids floods and the losses that come with it.
At 7%, our forest cover remains way too low. It cannot supply the goods and services required for our development, and certainly not for a country growing as quickly as we are.
Despite the knowledge of what needs to be done, there are challenges. Myths need to be demystified, cultural matters looked into, and fears dealt with.
Mali gameko ngombe weseka. Kwa sababu hapo gamia anaumisha ngombe. Acid maji, kwa sababu ukojoa vile tuona acid. Mali inasema unakojoa maji anaozo anaua hata mizizi ya majani.
Is an animal which is environmental friendly, which is a myth within them that it is destroying the environment. Attitude change is the biggest problem we have.
Watu wanasema wengi wanasema tuuze ngamia ngombe tuuze kwa ngamia, lakini tukakemeletu tunakataa. Lakini ngombe pia tunayo, ngamia pia tununue.
They know there are challenges within, and there are also some bad things that they expect by embracing camel production. Some of them could be true, there are things that they have observed, but some of them could be things that they just hear from others.
Ngamia ikikata hii miti, ikikula majani, hii miti inakauka kabisa. Hii miti sasa ngamia wakati inakula miti wanafuruta. Wakati kufuruta sasa hata mizizi anapata shida. Mizizi nyingine anaongoa.
For pastoralism to flourish, the national and county governments, among other stakeholders, have to work with the communities.
Government need to work with the communities and improve their traditional system of natural resource management. There are no any conflicting government policies that are currently in place, but some security policies sometimes have impact on largely on how the traditional institutions are managed. Resources within Kenya is available for all Kenyans. So if traditional systems now plan grazing, and then other communities come in, and then the cases go to the security apparatus. They will ask you, these people are Kenyans, they have also right to access these resources, why are you preventing them?
For those of us in the national government, as well as county governments, who are responsible for setting the necessary policies and regulating the agricultural sector, we have no choice but to open ourselves to new ideas.
If the pastoralists are able to fully adapt to climate change, there will be many reasons to celebrate.
So, because if you look at the food security in this country, like the milk, we have 500,000 liters deficit every year in this country, which they have not even, the country has not even looked at the potential of camel milk coming to the market, because we are selling it in informal market.
Sisi tutaki mambo relief, sababu tunatosha kulisha watoto wetu, familia yetu, tunajenga, tunasomesha.
Mostly due to high poverty level within this area, each and everyone is competing. So competition causes this internal conflict between different communities around. And we are saying that camel can be the answer to reduce those challenges.
Vita dunia, vita sasa wamebaki wafugaji. Masai wanapigania Turkana, Bokot, Borana, Somali, Samburu na Rendile. Hivi vyote letanga kukosifu unyasi. Kama kila mtu unabanga data, hakuna vita, hata vita itaisha. Kwa sababu kila leta ngombe yako ikosa nyasi, utafuta kwa kaunti nyingine na kuingia kwa lazima.
There is a direct connection between environment, livelihoods, and security.
The human race does not have a consensus that global warming and climate change is for real. Despite the variance in opinion, it is evident that climate change, social, cultural, and ecological drifts are having great impact on various ecosystems. One thing is for sure, it is time to prepare for extreme weather.
If you want advice and you want to be rich, don't be a farmer. Be a bank manager.
Communities initially have seen the haphazard access to water or even pasture has been not fruitful to the way they live and their pastoral system.
Climate is terrible. Look at last year and the year before, we got no rain. Then we had no income, nothing.
Kila mtu atengeze kwa kaunti yake. Vile sisi tunapanga mpango yetu, wao pia wapange yao. Kama bado fahamu, ukuje tuonishe hawa ama tufuze hawa kama mwalimu.
Nitabadilisha ngamia kwa ng'ombe kwa ngamia. Mbuzi kwa kondoo. Kwa maana hiyo ndo inaweza dumu siku ya jilali.
Tukijua ya kwamba shida hii ambayo tunaita climate change haitatuondokea, na ni jukumu letu sisi kama Wakenya kufanya juu chini kuhakikisha ya kwamba sisi wote tumeweka mikakati ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba hii shida mwaka huu ni jangwa la mafuriko, mwaka mwingine ni mambo ya ukame. We must acknowledge that we need to work together to prevent this.